Hello, welcome back to Going Walkabout. Today I have a handy little tip for you when you're using SwiftUI and you have data in your previews. Those that have been following my UIKit to SwiftUI migration must have seen that I use previews a lot. I actually started using them more and more to lay out my views and to make sure that they are pixel perfect the way I want to have it. And the way I did it was by creating some test data that we can see here. I have test data like weather, media that refer to images with aspect ratios. I have some users with names and some attached data to that. I have my trip with a name. There's been in countries. It's all data now. And this test data that actually is mock data for my data store models. Of course, in previews, you don't go directly to your data store, but with this preview data, I can still act as if I have real data. And I have gone so far that what we see here with these media, these images, that also my media cache, that if it retrieves, for instance, a user image or trip image, it just checks whether it is running in a preview. And in that case, that we can see here, if we're running in a preview, I just return a test image. In this case, it's a test avatar, but here also a test strip image, a test strip media, all the kind of imagery that I need only for running my previews. And the advantage is that if I'm running here my avatar, that I can see an image here. And if I change this to another one, it quickly changes to another one. And I can go back as well. And these images, of course, need to be part of your code base because I need to be able to show them. And this goes even further because if I go to my trip post view, what is a lengthy view, uses a lot of images, we can see that I need to have these images somewhere. And it works, I can preview, I can browse through. But of course, these are not images that are coming over the internet and are cached and come from my backend system, but they are preview images. Now, I use pretty low-res images here, but imagine that if you have a lot of this media because you have very elaborated previews, this can consume up quite a bit of data. And the data that is part of your application and the application you ship. What is not always what you want. First of all, these images have no use at runtime. Second, they consume space. It's more download, more upload, etc. So ideally, you only want to have these assets, so as you can call it images, but also test data when you're running in previews. And not when it goes deployed and when it is not part of your archive that you send to App Store Connect. Now, anyway, in that way, Apple thought about that, and some versions ago, I think with iOS 13, what was it, Xcode 11 or so. So if you create a new project in a later version of Xcode, you will get an extra folder here with preview content and preview assets. And you can throw in a lot of stuff. And what Apple does, when they're building your archive to get distributed, they strip out everything that is in this particular folder. And that is extremely helpful for the situation that I just explained, where you have a lot of assets that you want to use in your preview data. So what have I done? I actually created that same folder as a new project. My project is older than Xcode 11, so I didn't have that folder by default, so I had to recreate it. It was a little bit tricky because I had to create it as a folder and not as a folder reference, and first made a mistake. But anyway, if you have a physical folder that is having this name, you can put in preview assets. In the preview assets, I've put my imagery that I use for my previews. And this imagery, you can see the names that I can then use here for my cast test image with the ID that I have that refers to these assets, and it works. And I also put my test data that I just showed you there into that particular folder. Now, For running the application, for testing and debugging and developing, it doesn't make any difference. It's just a file, or it's a set of assets that is on your system, is part of your project, it gets into source control, etc. But the only difference is when you make a release build and you archive that for shipping, for distribution, it all gets stripped out. And that is fine because you don't need them at runtime, you don't need them to get uploaded, etc. So it saves a bit on your, let's say, bundle size of your application, what I think is always a good thing, because people are more tempted to download a smaller app than it's something that's very big. Anyway, that's my little tip. I like it, I use it. It's another improvement in the overall ecosystem of developing these applications, and therefore I thought, let's share it with you, because I didn't know it, even though it is already a few years old, and by coincidence I ran into that, and maybe you also now run into this by coincidence. Anyway, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you like, you can like and subscribe. If you don't like it, subscribe anyway, because the next one might be better for you. You know, another hidden tip. Thank you for watching.